At that moment, another idea was being discussed between Colonel Milchett and Colonel Pantry. The police chief had examined the body and overseen the initiation of his officers into their routine tasks. Then he went with the master of the house to his office in the other wing of the house. Colonel Milchett was a tense-looking man who was accustomed to always stroking his short, red mustache, which he was doing at that moment while casting a puzzled sidelong glance at his companion. Finally, he said sharply, "Listen, Pantry, I need to get this off my chest. Is it true that you don't know this girl at all?" The other man's reply was explosive, but the police chief interrupted, saying, "Yes, old man, but look at it this way. It might be embarrassing for you as a married man who loves his wife, but it's just between us. If you have any connection with this girl in any way, it's better to tell me now. It's quite natural for you to try to keep the truth hidden, and if I were in your place, I'd feel the same way. But this is a murder case and the facts must come out. Look, I'm not implying that you fathered the girl, that's not something you would do, I know that, but you're here. After all, let's say she broke into the house and was waiting to see you, and then someone followed her here and killed her. That's possible. Do you understand my point?" "Damn it, Milchett, I told you I've never laid eyes on that girl in my life. I'm not that kind of man." "Very well, even so, if that's what you say. The question is, what was she doing here? She's not from this area, that's certain." The master of the house responded angrily, "It's all like a nightmare. The question, old man, is, what was she doing in your library? And how should I know? I didn't ask her to come here." Yes, but you're here anyway. It seems she wanted to see you. Didn't you receive any strange messages recently?" "Never." Colonel Milchett asked cautiously, "What were you doing last night?" "I went to a meeting of the Conservative Association at 9 o'clock, at Fitch Benham." "And when did you return home?" "I left Fitch Benham just after 10, had trouble on the way back as I had to change one of the car's tires, and arrived just before midnight." "Did you go to the library?" "I did not. That's unfortunate. I was tired and went straight to bed." "Was anyone awake waiting for you?" "No, I always carry a key for the door, and Lorimer usually goes to bed at 11 unless I tell him otherwise." "Who locks the library?" "Lorimer. He locks it around 7:30 at this time of year." "Does he ever return to it during the night?" "Not when I'm out." "And what about your wife?" "I don't know. She was in bed asleep when I returned last night. She might have sat in the library last night or in the sitting room. I forgot to ask her." "Well, soon you'll know all the details. It's possible, of course, that one of the servants is involved, isn't it?" Colonel Pantry shook his head and said, "I don't believe that. They are all completely respectable and have been with us for many years." Milchett agreed, "Yes, their involvement in this matter seems unlikely. It looks like the girl came from the city, maybe with a young man, although the reason for choosing to break into this house." Pantry interrupted, "She is from London. That's the most likely thing. We don't have much in the way of questionable behavior here except for..." "Except for whom?" Colonel Pantry exploded, "It's him, by God, Basil Blake." "Who's that?" "A young man connected with the film industry, a wild, spiteful youth. My wife defends him because she was at school with his mother, but he's an incredibly rude young man who needs a good kicking. He rented that small house on Lancham Road, that modern, hideous building, and he holds parties there, morning and mayhem, and takes girls with him on weekends." "Girls?" "Yes, he brought one with him last week, a platinum blonde." The colonel stopped and pursed his lips, and Milchett said thoughtfully, "A platinum blonde, is that so?" "Yes, but do you think..." "Milchett!" The police chief quickly replied, "It's a possibility. It would make sense to check if a girl of that description was in the village of Essay, Mary's Mead. I suppose I'll go and talk to that young man." "Blake, what did you say his name was?" "Blake, Basil Blake." "Do you expect him to be at home now?" "Wait a moment. What day is it? Saturday? He usually comes here sometime on Saturday morning." "Very well," said Milchett, frowning, "we'll see if we can find him." Basil Blake's house contained all the modern comforts crammed into an ugly architectural shell, falsely trying to emulate the Tudor style. The house was known to the postman and to the builder William Booker as Nashetsort, and it was generally known to the residents of the village of Essay, Mary Mead as Mr. Booker's new house. It was located just a little over a quarter of a mile from the center of the village, set on land for modern buildings that the bold contractor Mr. Booker had purchased, right after the Blue Boar Cafe, and its facade overlooked a rural grassy meadow that had not been spoiled by civilization. As for the house of Gousington Hall, it was about a mile from this house along the same road. The people in the village of St. Mary Mead were very interested when the news spread that a movie star had bought Mr. Booker's new house. Eager eyes and ears were on the lookout for the first appearance of this mythical creature in the village. It could be said that Isel Blake was, in terms of appearance, everything one could wish for. However, the truth began to leak out little by little. It turned out that Bill Blake was neither a movie star nor even a film actor. He was a very secondary person who enjoyed his title, which ranked 15th on the list of those responsible for decoration at the Linefield Studios, the headquarters of the new British film company. And then the women of the village lost interest, and the ruling class of sharp-tongued spinsters opposed the lifestyle of Bill Blake. Only the owner of the Blue Boar Cafe remained enthusiastic about Basil Blake and his friends, as the cafe's revenue had increased since that young man arrived in the area. The police car stopped outside the rusty, warped gate. Mr. Booker found it pleasing to set up for this house, and Colonel Melchett walked, looking disdainfully at the excessive decoration of that house with wood, until he reached the front door and knocked on it with his hammer. The iron. He opened the door faster than he had imagined, revealing a young man with hair. A bit tall, wearing orange cotton pants and a bright blue shirt. The young man shouted nervously, "All right, what now? What do you want? Are you Mr. Bill Blake?" "I am, of course. I would be happy to exchange words with you, Mr. Blake, if that is possible. Who are you?" "I am Colonel Melchett, the chief of police in the county." "Mr. Blake said rudely, "Say something else. How amusing that is." Colonel Melchett understood as he followed the young man inside the true reactions of Colonel Pantry towards him. His foot itched with the desire to kick the young man, but he controlled himself and said in an attempt to speak cheerfully, "It seems you are one of those who rise early, Sir Blake?" "Not at all. In fact, I haven't slept yet." "Really? But I don't think you came here to inquire about Tommy's hours, and if you did for that purpose, it would be a waste of this country's time and money. What do you want to talk to me about?" Colonel Melchett cleared his throat and said, "I understand, Mr. Blake, that you had a visitor last weekend, a young blonde-haired visitor." Basil stared at him, then burst out laughing and said, "Have the scheming old women of the village sent me to you, regarding my ethics? Damn it! Morality is not within the jurisdiction of the police, and you know that." Colonel Melchett said brusquely, "Your morals don't concern me as you say, but I came to you because of the discovery of the body of a young blonde woman who looks, it's a bit strange, and it has been said." He stared at him and said, "Really, where?" "In the library at Gousington Hall." "In Gousington, the old people's home pantry? This is very exciting. Pantry? That silly old man." Colonel Melanchett's face turned red, and he said sharply, interrupting the young man's renewed merriment, "I hope you can control your tongue, sir. I came to ask you if you could shed any light on this matter. You came here to ask me if I lost a girl. Blonde, isn't it? And why can it? Ah, what is this?" A car had approached quickly and then came to a sudden stop. Outside, a young woman got out wearing a loose-fitting dress in black and white. She had platinum blonde hair, and she walked all the way to the door and then. I pushed him hard and shouted angrily, "Why did you leave me, you savage?" Basil Blake stood up and said, "So there you are, and why shouldn't I leave you? I asked you to go out, but you didn't accept. And why should I be kicked out, for God's sake, just because you told me that? I have been a fortune teller there. Yes, with that monster Fate Rosenberg, you know what? His average. I was jealous of him, that's all there is to it. Don't praise yourself when I take you to a party, I have my expectations. You should behave properly. And I refuse to take orders no matter what. I said that you will go to the party and then we will come back here afterwards, and I won't leave. A party before I felt ready to leave it. Yes, and that's why I completely left you. I liked the idea of coming here, so I came. I wouldn't wait for any foolish woman." "What a polite person you are, my dear. It seems you caught up with me completely. I wanted to tell you. If you think you can overstep your bounds with me, artist, you are mistaken. If you think that you can expand by dictating your orders to me, you should reconsider your calculations." Then they both stared at each other, and at that moment, Colonel Melchett seized the opportunity and cleared his throat loudly. Basil Blake turned to him and said, "Hello, I forgot you were here. It's time for you to leave, isn't it? Let me introduce you to Denali. And this is the Colonel, a retrograde from the county police. And now, Colonel, after seeing my blonde girl alive and well, perhaps you will continue with your own business with that old lady Pantry? Good morning to you." Colonel Melchett said, "I advise you to keep a polite tongue in your mouth, young man, or else you will find yourself in a lot of trouble." Then he left with his face flushed with anger.